So thank you for coming. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Joe Koufman. I'm the founder and CEO of AgencySparks. And I'm going to quickly talk you, there'll be three parts to this. One is just a super quick section where I'll tell you a little bit more about my company. Then I'll talk about my career journey, which is somewhat untraditional to finding marketing. And I think you have a lot of students that will all find different paths, and many of them will end up in marketing careers, but they'll all get there different ways. And then the third section of what I'll talk about is broader marketing career paths. We wrote a blog post about marketing career paths, and we've done a really good job of search engine optimization. So if you Google marketing career path, our blog post comes up #1. And I've got a shortcut link that's in this presentation that I'll share with you that may be a good resource that you can share with your students. But that third section of what I'm going to talk about largely focuses on the content that's in that marketing career path blog. So just a little quick background, AgencySparks. Brands often struggle to find the right marketing agency. And by brands, those are the Coca-Colas and Home Depots of the world, and also a lot of smaller companies that they sometimes are missing either capacity or capability to do something that they're trying to accomplish. So capacity is we just don't have enough arms and legs to do all of the marketing activities that we need to sell more drills and hammers at Home Depot. Or we're missing a specific capability, like we don't have email marketing experts on our team, so we're going to hire an agency that has email marketing expertise to fill that gap. On the flip side, agencies often struggle to find marketing, to find clients. And so AgencySparks is a matchmaker that bridges the gap. I've always been a matchmaker as a hobby. There are 3 couples who have married as a result of me introducing them to each other. Not all still married, not a marriage counselor, not my job. They liked each other enough to get married. So we connect brands and agencies together, and have been doing it for about 4.5 years. So I'm going to show you a super quick video. I think it's a 1-minute video, and you'll hear from a brand side person that talks about how we've helped them find agencies, and you'll hear from an agency about how we help them find brands. And it will load. It'll just take a second. That's agency business casual. You have to wear dark jeans and a gray sport coat. They all wear it. So that's it about AgencySparks. Connect brands and agencies together. We're paid by the agencies to make introductions to potential clients. And I'm going to talk about sort of the journey that I took to get there. Any questions quickly about the company before we move on? So I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the home of, are you really? Wilkesboro, home of the Motor Speedway and Merlefest. So you see R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. We're home of Krispy Kreme donuts, R.J. Reynolds, all the major food groups. So I grew up there, and then I stayed home for college and went to Wake Forest University, where I was a double major. I was a politics and speech communications major. I once thought I wanted to go into politics, and then I realized that politicians spend almost all their time raising money and campaigning, and very little time actually getting to affect change. And so I said, maybe politics isn't for me. But I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my career. I had no idea what my path was going to be. And, you know, unless I was going to go to law school or be a politician, politics and speech communications maybe didn't have a very clear path for me. So I decided to ask the smartest person I know on the planet. And this is my first cousin, Greg. Greg has his undergrad degree from Cornell University and has got his MBA from Harvard. He's now a college professor. He teaches international business. He also is fluent in 7 languages, and they're not the easy ones. He's fluent in Japanese, Mandarin, Korean, and I say fluent, he's fluent. Can't have it all, he's 5'3". So there's Greg. My boy's wicked smart. He's from Boston, so I figured that was a good gift. So yeah, Greg, I said, Greg, what should I do with my life? What should I do with my career? And Greg said, well, I've known you a long time, actually your whole life, and I think you would be really good at sales and marketing. I said, that's great, Greg, thanks. What's sales and marketing? And Greg said, well, let me give you an analogy. I'll give you an analogy. Sales is kind of like the hand-to-hand combat. You're talking to a customer, and you're trying to convince them to buy a product or service, and it's a one-on-one, conversation and relationship. Marketing is more like the carpet bombing. You're trying to convince a bunch of people to do something. And I said, that sounds terrible, Greg. I don't want to do sales or marketing. And so I was working part-time in retail while I was in college, and worked at the Abercrombie Fitch in Haines Mall. And my senior year of college, I went on a trip to New Orleans for spring break. It was a volunteer trip. There were, I think, 8 or 9 of us that in a van drove to New Orleans. And during the day, we painted a school, and we cleaned up a kitchen of a VA halfway house and some things like that. And then at night, we had fun in New Orleans and ate and drank and heard music and that kind of thing. And I decided that during that trip, that I was moving to New Orleans when I graduated. And they thought I was kidding when I said, in 3 months when we graduate, I'm going to New Orleans. And so I went and talked to my manager at the Abercrombie Fitch in North Carolina and said, hey, I'm moving to New Orleans when I graduate. Either you can give me a job there or I'll find one when I get there. So I moved to New Orleans. She gave me a job as an assistant manager at the store there. And it was like a 4-year vacation living in New Orleans. I was eventually recruited from Abercrombie & Fitch to another company I'll tell you in a minute, but I dealt with some really interesting things that taught me some life skills while I was working retail. And retail wasn't a great career path for me, but I learned really valuable lessons. For example, during my time there, they remodeled the store, and they did a phase remodel, which meant that they built a wall in the middle of the store. And we ran the store on one side while they were doing this loud, noisy, dusty construction on the other side. And there were things like, oh, the workers accidentally cut the cable that runs the registers when you have 10 people in line. How do you figure out how to do that? Or I had an employee that was stealing from the store, and I had to have him marched out in handcuffs. So I dealt with some things that were difficult for a 22, 23, 24-year-old to deal with. But I learned some interesting lessons from that. I did what any 22-year-old, I made a lot of money when I graduated, and I got this job. They gave me $20,000 a year, and I thought I was rich. So I did what any good 22-year-old does and goes and buys a brand new Saturn SC2 green. By the way, I had to scour the internet to find a photo of a green Saturn SC2, 1995, I think it was. So I was a big shot. That car actually gave its life to save mine. So I got recruited to go work for Eddie Bauer, and they offered me maybe a little bit more money than I was making at the time. And I went to work in the suburbs of New Orleans, and I don't know if this next photo means anything to any of you. The Bright Field is the name of the ship, but I got a call from the manager of the store in Riverwalk near the French Quarter. She was sitting in the lunchroom, or in the stock room, eating her lunch, and she sees this boat veering towards the mall. I don't know if any of you remember this, but a boat ran right into the mall, she ran out of the stock room and said, get out. And nobody, I don't think, nobody died. I don't think, some people maybe got hurt. But so anyway, I helped rebuild the store after they finished remodeling it. I helped rebuild the store. But during that process, I was interviewing to become a store manager. And one of the guys that interviewed me was in charge of the Western region. And he said, I actually need somebody that can come and help me manage the store out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So I moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I managed the store. It was a freestanding store. I was 25 years old, and I learned more lessons there. But the idea was eventually, if I did a good job there, they would move me back east. And so they offered me a gig in Atlanta, and I thought this was what Atlanta was when I took the job. By the way, there is traffic. This is a weird photo because the traffic's moving in this photo. So I came to Atlanta to manage the Lenox Square store. It was a $6 million a year in revenue store, and I had like 50 employees, and I was 25 years old. One Christmas season, and I realized that retail was not for me anymore. I actually decided to go home to North Carolina for the first time that Thanksgiving, and I flew home at 8 a.m., and I had to fly back to Atlanta at 5:30 that evening because I needed to be in the store for Black Friday the next day. So I'd accumulated some skills from my background, but I didn't have any specific technical skills. But at the time, there was a .com that was looking for people with marketing and sales and interpersonal skills because they felt that it's easier to teach somebody with interpersonal skills the technology than it is to teach a geek how to have interpersonal skills. So I went to work for a company called Knowledge Storm. I spent 8 years there, which I think for a .com, it's like dog years. It was like 64 years or something. But the first 3 as an account manager, and then the next 5 as a salesperson. And we survived the .com bust and layoffs and things like that. And the beautiful thing is I actually had some stock options. So I was pretty sure I was going to be a millionaire pretty soon, like we all did in the .com days. We got acquired by a company called TechTarget, went public, raised $130 million in their IPO, and then used half the money to buy Knowledge Storm. The investors, I think, made pretty good. I think the investors put in a total of $20 million, so they made 3 times their money. My stock options, I did make a lot of money with my stock options, and I went and purchased the most amazing laptop you can imagine. And the challenge is that the phones sitting on your desk are 10 times more powerful than that laptop now. But I didn't actually make very much money from it. But I learned a lot there as well. So I went to work for a very small digital agency. I was on the board of an organization called the Atlanta Interactive Marketing Association with the guys that ran this agency. And so I went to work there, and we soon were acquired by a larger agency called Engage, where I ran marketing and business development. So I was responsible for marketing the agency and bringing in new clients. And I spent 6 years there. We were right in Midtown. This is the Promenade building right next to the High Museum of Art. And then we were acquired in 2013 by Publicis Group. All of the marketing agencies in the world, most are owned by one of 5 holding companies, big holding companies. Publicis Group is probably a $10 billion holding company. My company, Engage, got bought by them and merged with Moxie to become the largest agency in the Southeast. We were a 400-employee agency. And I decided that mega holding company wasn't for me. So I left, and I immediately had 6 job offers. And they were mostly from agencies that said, we want you to do what you did for them, but do it for us. And I had a friend that really encouraged me to start my own agency. But as I already told you, I really was more into the matchmaking side of it than I was I didn't want to build websites for companies or do PR campaigns or social media or that kind of thing. And so I founded AgencySparks. That was the original logo, not a logo designer. We eventually got a better logo with a sparkler. And my team. So this is my team. 4 of the 5 of them actually graduated from, if you all saw Jen Osmond talk from the Terry College of Business, digital marketing majors at the University of Georgia. But I want to just quickly talk about Kate. Kate graduated from college. She took a job she ended up hating and came and interviewed with me, and I offered her a job. I thought she was great. She said, you know, I don't think I'm going to accept your job offer. I think I want to be a consultant. I said, Kate, you're 22. Nobody wants to hire a consultant with no experience. But I'll tell you what, I'll take 10 hours a week. And so she worked for me for 10 hours a week. And she found some other clients, and she sort of pieced together this beginning of a consulting business. She lost a client. We bumped her up to 15 hours. We bumped her up to 20 hours. A couple years later, somebody came along and offered her a job, full-time job. Ironically, somebody that I introduced her to offered her a full-time job. She talked to me about the job on Thursday. Friday, I decided to counter the job offer and offer her a gig. And then that Monday, she came in and actually accepted the gig. Number one, she made almost double what I originally had offered her because she had built now 2.5 years of experience working with us very closely. And she's worth every penny of it. She's worth the money that we pay for her. But she had a very different experience than I did. She was a digital marketing major and sort of knew all along that she wanted to pursue marketing as a path. For your students that know that marketing is in their future, they are way ahead of somebody like me that kind of had to bump around a career to figure out what they really wanted to do. Any questions about my journey before we jump into the evolution of a marketing career? So as mentioned, if you Google marketing career path, our blog comes up number one. We'll actually have a shortcut URL that you can use if you ever want to direct students to that blog post. It's a great resource for them or a great resource for their parents to say, hey, here's an opportunity for your daughter or son to pursue something that's really meaningful, themarketingcareerpath.com. But on that blog post, we posted a infographic, and I'm going to pull pieces of that and share them with you. So as you progress in a marketing career, this is an eye chart, but don't worry about the text here. Just worry about the text at the top. There are different levels of a marketing career. Usually you begin as a specialist or a coordinator. You hopefully do really well and get promoted to a manager position, to a director position, to a VP, and if you're really, really good, you might get promoted to a chief marketing officer someday. As you begin your career, you're much more focused on technical skills, and then as you are given more responsibility, you're starting to build some management skills. So while you may have started here as an email marketing expert doing email marketing campaigns for clients, and then you get bumped up to manager and you've got 2 email marketing specialists working with you, and now you're the email team. And then you get promoted to director and you've got, 2 teams of email marketing experts that are part of your team. And so as you progress, you move away from just being a technical expert into being a manager, which can be a very difficult transition for many people, or it can be easier for others that are maybe, prepared for that. Skip to this one really quickly. How long does that path take? And these times will vary significantly, but entry level right out of college, manager level may be 3 to 4 years, so you prove yourself pretty well, and you might get bumped up from a coordinator or specialist to a manager, and then you prove yourself pretty well, and now 6 to 7 years in, you might be a director, and then 12 to 14 years VP if you're doing a really great job. And then 20 years plus, you might be a CMO. I was told in one of the other sessions that I need to update my salaries because even a starting marketing salary out of college can be a lot more than that now. But we sort of took a stab at what those different levels salary-wise would look like. 35,000, 55, 75, 110, 160. This is a great career path. You can build a very, very, very nice career with marketing as your focus. This is also a bit of an eye chart. Go ahead. Sure. Well, you're going to get this whole deck as well. We're going to send you a link to it. And also, if you go to that link, themarketingcareerpath.com, it's got this whole infographic on it. Don't worry about the detail of this one either, but you're sort of, I wanted to just quickly explain the difference between client side and agency side. So the example I've been using is Graco. I don't know how many of you all are parents. I've got twin 8-year-olds. So we had a lot of Graco products, pack and plays and strollers and car seats and things. So using that as an example, there's usually an executive sponsor who may be the VP of marketing for Graco. Graco is within the Newell Rubbermaid family of brands. There may be a senior marketer who's a director level, and then there also might be a functional specialist. There are multiple functional specialists, which might be an analytics person or a social media person or an email person or a copywriter. So these are the specialists. On the agency side, it's very similar. There's an executive sponsor, which is maybe the CEO of the agency or EVP or something like that. There's account managers who manage the relationship with the brand, and then there are project managers that manage the resources that are doing the work, or they even manage the functional specialists. Questions about that? I know that's very broad and quick, but generally these are some of the kinds of roles that you can go into if you went on the client side or on the agency side. And that's the bulk of the positions that are available in marketing. You'd start on one path or the other. There are people that switch back and forth over their careers. So I want to give you just a couple of examples of some specific paths by title and role. So this is a brand path. You might start as a brand marketing manager, brand marketing coordinator or specialist, manager, director, VP, marketing analytics specialist, manager, director, VP, CMO, hopefully if you're really good. This is more for the agency side of things. You might start as an account coordinator where you're doing spreadsheets and things for the account executive and manager and director. And then you get promoted up and you're getting the account specialist to do the spreadsheets now. And then more on the PR side of things, communications coordinator, PR and comms manager, director, VP, et cetera. So just want to give you a couple of examples of some titles. Those are also on the infographic that are right on the blog post that I mentioned. Marketingcareerpath.com is the blog post, and then you'll get the deck as well. But what questions can I answer for you? Oh, you read my bio. So when I lived in Jackson Hole, I accumulated all of this music from New Orleans for my 4 years there, and I ended up meeting the general manager of the station, and I did a show called the Big Easy Cabaret Show with Joe, all your favorite New Orleans and Louisiana music here on 96.9 KMTN. So I did that for just as a side hustle and for fun, and then I discovered internet radio, and so I still do, every Tuesday night I do a show on gumboshow.com for fun, all music. Not just New Orleans music, but just music. I was asked in some of the previous sessions about skills and what skills should students build, and one of the skills that I think is super important for particularly high school students, but even college students, ability to communicate in both written and verbal fashion is the #1 skill. We used to make fun of English majors as unemployable. Like, what is poet is not a real job, is it? Is it a real career? But let me tell you, no matter what profession you end up in, particularly in marketing, whether you're writing a social media post or writing an email to your boss trying to convince them to give you more budget or whatever it is, being able to express yourself in written communication is super important. The other thing is there are two things that I think not just students, but anybody should think about in their role within their career: acquiring relationships and acquiring skills. If you're not growing, like learning new things and acquiring new skills, then go find something else to do, particularly in marketing, because technology is such a huge part of marketing now that you need to be able to progress in your career and learn new things. But also, building relationships over time often pay off in unexpected ways down the road. Good question. Originally we were set up where we were paid by the agency a monthly retainer to help make ongoing introductions, and then we were paid a percentage of the deal if they got a kiss at the end of the date that we set for them. About a year ago, we got rid of the commission altogether so that now we can say to the client, look, you have a problem or need that you're trying to solve, and usually those problems are either I'm missing capacity, like I don't have enough arms and legs to do the work that I need to have done, or I'm missing capability. We're not experts at social media. We're going to hire a social media agency to help us with that. But so what we're doing to the client is saying, look, here are 3 or 4 agencies that all have the capability to help you solve the problem. You pick the agency that has the best chemistry with your team. So we're paid by the agencies a monthly retainer just to make ongoing introductions. To an extent, I mean, we're not involved in the pitches. I used to be when I was at the agency for many years, but we're matchmakers. We make the introduction and get out of the way. I already told you we're not marriage counselors, so we try to. Some, yeah. Many of them are focused on a specific capability. So like we have one that's focused on nothing but mobile. We've got one that's focused on PR and social. We've got one that's focused on multicultural, particularly Hispanic marketing. So some of them are like that, and then some of them are a little more general. Yeah, good question.
Not to get too far into it, but do the agencies that you have basically in your pool that you pull from?
Yeah. Yeah, that's our model. We're paid a monthly retainer by each agency. The brands don't pay us anything to make the connections. I think it would be a conflict of interest if we're paid by the client to help them find an agency, then guess which agencies we would always serve them, the ones that are paying us. So we feel like you should be paid by one side or the other, but not both. Yeah. Good question. There are 6 ways that we find them. But just in a nutshell, we do marketing automation on a pretty mass scale. So there are people that have subscribed to receive our content. We write a new blog post every week. We curate a marketing tool. We call it our Marketer's Toolbox every week. We develop a new video each month called the Marketing Mindset. So we create content and push it out to people who have subscribed. We do targeted outreach where we'll pick a handful of prospects for each agency that get much more personalized messaging versus the, hey, come look at our newsletter. We host events. The video you saw was one of the breakfasts where we'll invite a bunch of brands to come to the breakfast and we'll invite one person from each agency. We tap our personal network. So I have 4,000 LinkedIn connections. I don't link in with somebody unless I've met them. Of those, roughly half of them are marketers. Some of it, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we leverage the marketing tools for our own business in order to find opportunity for the agencies, yeah. And it's fun. We do some really fun things. Valentine's Day, I have another video in the appendix, but I don't know how we are on time. It's short. What's that? We're done. Right. Well, so anyway, if you go to makesomesparks.com, you can see that video, Make Some Sparks. It's intentionally vague, but we sent out 420 handwritten Valentine's cards to VPs of marketing that drove, it says, hi, Sarah, we want you to be our Valentine, but it's not what you think. Go to makesomesparks.com for a different kind of Valentine. They go to makesomesparks.com and they'll see the little video that plays there, and it's a spoof of an eHarmony or Match.com kind of video, like a dating service, and then the punchline is we actually help these people find a marketing agency that's a good fit for them. But that's a perfect example of we do marketing for our business, and it's fun. I mean, we didn't actually handwrite 420 Valentine's cards. We use a service that actually uses a maker bot to handwrite the cards and personalize each one, but we didn't, and then, we captured who was coming to the site and looking at the video. It's cool. Well, no, it's more of a technology company that they could just pay to have them do the cards. But we leverage that versus I can't imagine writing 420 cards, and also my handwriting's not that good. So, yeah. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much.